I never wanted trouble. All I wanted was peace. My cabin sat at the edge of the mountain, tucked among tall pines and overlooking a quiet lake that reflected the sunrise like stained glass. I had built it over 2 years, plank by plank, using the blueprints my father drew before he passed. To me, it wasn't just wood and nails. It was a piece of him I could still hold onto, something that smelled like sawdust and sweat, a home made with love. But to Karen, the self-appointed queen of the homeowners association, my cabin was an eyesore. The first time she showed up, I thought it was a joke. She wore heels on gravel, lipstick too sharp for the woods, and a smug grin that made my stomach turn. "This cabin doesn't meet the aesthetic standards of our community," she said, waving her clipboard. "It's too rustic. Too plain. We value curb appeal here." I laughed, thinking she was kidding. "Lady, it's a log cabin in the mountains. What did you expect, marble columns?" But Karen wasn't laughing. She filed a formal complaint. Within a week, I got letters taped to my door, fines stacking like bricks, threats that they'd take action. I tried to reason with her. I explained the history, the meaning. My father had been a builder. His dream was to retire in this cabin, but cancer stole him before he ever could. This home was my tribute. Every corner had a story: the porch where he taught me to carve wood, the fireplace he designed to keep us warm on long winters, the kitchen where Mom's recipes came alive again. But Karen didn't care. To her, everything was about appearances. She wanted her street to look like a glossy magazine cover, perfect lawns and identical mailboxes. My cabin broke the illusion. She started spreading rumors. Called me a hermit. Told neighbors I was lowering property values. And slowly, I felt the sting. People looked at me differently, whispering. I was being cast out of my own community, all because I didn't fit into Karen's shallow vision. The stress built like a storm cloud. Nights became heavy. I'd sit on the porch, staring at my father's rocking chair, wondering what he'd do. He wasn't the type to bow down. He believed in standing tall, even when people tried to break you down. And that's when I realized, Karen hadn't just insulted my cabin. She had insulted him. That's when I knew I wasn't going to let her win. But I had no idea the lengths she would go, or how far I'd have to go to fight back. The final straw came on a Saturday morning. I woke to the sound of hammers and chainsaws. When I stepped outside, I froze. Karen had hired workers to stake signs right in front of my cabin, big, ugly boards that read, "Condemned design. Not up to HOA standards." It was humiliation, public and cruel. Cars slowed to gawk. Neighbors shook their heads. My chest burned with a mix of rage and grief. This wasn't just about aesthetics anymore. Karen was trying to destroy the one thing in my life that still held me together. I stormed down to her manicured palace of a house. She was in the driveway, sipping coffee, watching the chaos she had caused like it was a show. "You can't do this," I said, fists trembling. "Oh, but I can," she replied smoothly. "You either tear that ugly shack down or the HOA will keep fining you until you're forced to sell. We don't want your kind of rustic charm here." Her words cut deep. "Your kind." Like I was less than human. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, staring at the walls my father and I had built together. Memories of him kept flooding back, his laugh, his rough hands guiding mine, his voice telling me, "Son, a man's home is his honor." That's when the plan started forming. If Karen thought my cabin was a dump, fine. I'd give her a dump. But not here, there. The next weeks, I worked quietly. Every scrap piece of wood, every broken appliance, every load of junk I could haul, I dumped it neatly into Karen's yard. Old tires. Rusted barrels. Piles of leaves and branches. Things she and her pristine home hated. At first, she screamed. Called the police. But when they arrived, I showed them the letters, the fines, the harassment. Neighbors started speaking up. They admitted they'd been pressured by Karen, silenced by fear of her power. One by one, people began to see the truth. Her polished mask cracked. The queen of the HOA was exposed, not as a protector of the neighborhood, but as a bully who thrived on control. By the end of the month, it wasn't my cabin under attack. It was her house, buried under the weight of her own cruelty. The very dump she accused me of creating had become her reality. But here's the part that surprised even me: I didn't feel joy watching her crumble. I felt peace. Because I had defended my father's dream. I had stood up not just for myself, but for everyone she had stepped on. And when the HOA finally voted her out, my cabin stood untouched, strong, proud, and beautiful in its simplicity. Because sometimes, beauty isn't in perfect lines and polished lawns. Sometimes, beauty is in the story a place carries, in the love that built it, in the memories it protects. Karen never understood that. But I did. And so did everyone else, finally. Sparkle's strong ending message for viewers. Never let someone else decide the value of what you've built. Whether it's your home, your dream, or your heart, it's yours. And sometimes the ugliest fight creates the most beautiful truth.